Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the WoolJewel podcast. I'm Caitlin and this is my podcast mostly about knitting and the occasional weaving, dyeing, spinning, and now sewing because I started sewing the past couple weeks. So basically anything that I'm making, I'll be sharing with you here. Welcome back to anybody returning and a huge welcome to anybody checking out the podcast for the first time. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to get in touch with me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, where I'm probably the most active, as @WoolJewel. I'm also WoolJewel on Ravelry, and we have a Ravelry group, and that's where you can find all the info on knit-alongs. I'm currently doing a year-long sock knit-along and a knit-along with Elise from the My Two Tips podcast, so we're doing like a warmer weather garment knit-along together. So you can find all the info for those in the Ravelry group. I also have a Facebook group and a Patreon. So if you want to find any of those, I will put the links below in the description. So before I get into finished objects, I wanted to quickly mention that my pattern Louie, which is a short sleeve sweater pattern, has been released. I released it on Ravelry kind of with very little fanfare, so I think I just made a couple Instagram posts about it, but it took a lot longer to write a pattern than I thought it would, and when it was ready, I just wanted it out there. So I didn't set a release date, I just kind of like was tired of pushing it back further and further, and I just put it up there when it was ready. So that is available on Ravelry. I'll also link to that below. And as a thank you to all my podcast viewers, I am going to give you a coupon code for 10% off the Louie pattern, and that is going to be here on the screen. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody watching the podcast, and if you want to buy the pattern, there's a coupon code for you. All right, so you guys might notice that we're in a different place today. Since I started sewing, I made one dress and decided I was Martha Stewart and I had to have my own room just for sewing, just after one project. I have a, I think you guys, like anybody who's been watching for a long time has seen my yarn room or my stash room. And it's just where I put my shelves with all my yarn, but it's really not a big enough space to like spend time in. It's really just like a giant closet with a window. So I just put all my yarn in there, and I do all of my making in the living room or at the dining table. And it only took one sewing project to realize that that was a really, really bad plan. First of all, where our dining table is, it's the only place in the apartment that it could go pretty much, and there's no outlets nearby or close enough that my sewing machine would reach it. And so I decided I needed to have a different setup figured out if I wanted to keep sewing, because moving everything around just to sew the one project I knew was going to discourage me from doing more. So I came upstairs. We have this loft space upstairs that doesn't get used very much. We were just kind of using it as a TV room, but then we moved our TV into our bedroom. So we really never came up here. So I sold most of the furniture that was in this loft and used that money to buy some sewing room furniture. So I got a big table for cutting, and I already had this desk. This was in my yarn room. But I bought this little IKEA shelf, a little cube shelf to go in that corner for storage. So it's not very much right now, and it's obviously very bare. So I just grabbed my yarn pyramid and a plant to put in the background so it wasn't super bare. But yeah, hopefully as I get this space more figured out and functional, it'll look cute too. And I think it's gonna work out really well to podcast up here too, because this is out of the way. If people come over, this is not where people are going to be. And so if it, if I leave the podcast stuff out, it will probably me and I can film more often, and it's gonna be less of a hassle, and I don't know. I'm just really excited to have this space now, just for making stuff. I don't know, I'm just like really happy about it. So yeah, it's kind of all or nothing with me. Make one project, and then now I have an entire room just for that, so that's why we're in here, and I think I will do most of my filming in here from now on. Okay, so let's talk about knitting. I have one finished object, and that is my Zweig sweater. I finally finished it, and I'm so happy. I actually finished this several weeks ago. I haven't filmed in a long time because Ben and I were traveling a lot. We went on 3 trips in July, so that was just kind of crazy. And then I also did like a live stream podcast thing for my patrons on Patreon, and so I don't know, I didn't do a whole lot of knitting because it's been super hot in Europe, as I'm sure everybody is aware, because every podcast I've been watching is talking about how hot it is in Europe. It's crazy. It lasted way too long. But yeah, so the heat kind of meant I wasn't knitting as much, and then the few things I was knitting, I already shared on the Patreon live stream, so I just didn't feel super compelled to sit down and make a podcast episode. But I do have this finished, and I am mostly happy with it. I think if you guys have been watching, you know that I really struggled with knitting the body of it. It wasn't enjoyable to knit these little cables, but I powered through and I did it, and I finished it right before we went to London. I was able to wear it a little bit. We took a little day trip to Brighton. If you follow me on Instagram, you can find some little snippets of us running around London, and most of it is just me knitting in different places. So that's all in my Instagram stories if you want to see, but my sister also finished her Zweig, and so we wore them together and looked like a couple crazy people because we totally matched, and we even have matching alpaca bags, and so we just kind of looked insane, but it's okay. So I wore this in Brighton, and that day it was super, super misty. It was like borderline raining most of the day, but not enough to need an umbrella all day, and so my sweater got kind of damp, and after I blocked it, it grew quite a bit. And I know that superwash yarn grows, except this just grew a lot more than I'm used to. So I think that that is because of the lace. Like, I think the lace just opened up more than I was expecting. Yeah, so I was already kind of bummed that it was a little bigger, but I was fine with it. And then I wore it on that super misty day, and all the moisture in the air like went into the sweater, and by the end of the day it was like 2 sizes bigger than it was when I put it on in the morning. So it's like really big now. I'm just calling it an oversized sweater so that I don't get sad about it. I think what I can do is maybe go and rip back on the sleeves, because right now I have to roll them. I made these super long cuffs just because I like that, but now they're way too long, and so I have to fold them back over, and so I feel like maybe I should just rip them back, but I'm also just like sick of being on this sweater, so I want to just be done with it and not spend time with it. I'm still gonna wear it a lot. It's really soft, the yarn's really nice. It's Madeline Tosh Twist Light, and the colorways are Whiskey Barrel and Marfa. Yeah, so that's it for the Zweig. But I have a couple more sweater quantities set aside specifically for more Caitlin Hunter patterns, including the Alyeska sweater. I have yarn for that one, and I also have yarn for the Ninilchik Swoncho, which I've had yarn for that for a while, but then I didn't have a main color, and so I just had to wait until I had a main color. And I just found some in my stash that I just didn't think of before, but I think I'm ready to knit that soon. I don't know. She's got so many really good patterns. I really want to do the Tecumseh and I would love to knit another white horse too. I don't know, they're all so pretty. Okay, so that's all I've got for finished objects for knitting, but I do have a couple works in progress. The first one is this little guy. And this is going to be a turban. So this is the Angel Face Turban by Amy Appel. She has quite a few turban patterns and they're all really, really cute. But the girl who's teaching me to sew said that she would teach me in exchange for knitting lessons. So I was looking around for patterns that would be good as a beginner project, that wouldn't be too boring, because she's already really good at sewing, so I figured she might have, you know, a little bit more patience and be willing to try something a little bit more advanced than just like a rectangle scarf or something. So I figured a hat, but then she's really into like vintage fashion and vintage sewing patterns and stuff like that, and so I thought that the turban would be a good option for her, so, you know, something that she can incorporate into her wardrobe a little bit better. And so I bought the pattern for myself, so because I wanted to just knit a little bit of it to see if it was going to be doable for a beginner. And I mean, it's a really good pattern because it just needs one skein of fingering weight. And so I went into my stash and I was kind of lazy and I didn't feel like winding up yarn into a ball. And so I was just looking through, I have like a little bin that has pre-wound yarn. So I found this ball of yarn, which I think is a Hedgehog Skinny Singles yarn in the colorway Pollen. I'm not 100% sure because I wound this up a long time ago to knit a shawl, and then the shawl got frogged, and so this just ended up going into that bin. I'm more sure that the colorway is called Pollen than I am about it being hedgehog fibers, but I think it is. Anyway, so this was already balled up and ready to go, and I thought it would be a cute turban color. So you knit it flat for most of the way, and then I haven't looked far enough ahead to figure out how it all attaches and everything, but it's gonna be so cute. I'm really excited. I did not do a gauge swatch. I figured it probably doesn't matter that much just because it's going on my head. The other project I've been working on, the Woolen Honey Sweater by Andrea Mowry, which you'll see next, I have been knitting really tight to get gauge, so like that whole sweater I've been having to knit pretty tight. And so when I started this, I was knitting really tight just because that's what I was used to, and then after I did like an inch and a half of it, I decided that it was too tight for what this is and I should probably just do my normal, more comfortable knitting gauge so that it wasn't a pain to knit. So the whole like first inch and a half is really tight, and then it gets looser, which I also think is not going to be a problem because the tighter part is closer to the edge, the bottom edge, the brim, I guess, and so I think that'll just help it stay on my head a little better. I don't know. I'm not like super invested in this project. I just thought it would be a cute, fun little thing to do. So I'm like not worried at all about it not being perfect. I think since it's just a turban, I think it'll be easy to kind of fudge at the end. If it doesn't fit quite right, I can probably just like seam it tighter or something like that if it's too big. And I've kind of decided that there is a lot of counting involved with the rows and everything, and it's not exactly mindless, and so I think maybe as a total beginner project, maybe not so much, but then maybe this would be good for a second project. So I don't know, I might have her knit a beanie for her husband, which she said that she was interested in doing first. I think that might be a little easier, and then we'll do the turban next. But yeah, I'm excited to have a little turban. I don't wear beanies a whole lot. I only have a couple of them. I always think that they're really cute and I want to knit them, and then they don't end up looking the way I want. And so when I get dressed to go out, I end up never wearing the hats because they just like don't look the way that they're supposed to in my mind. That being said, I'm gonna make this turban. I think it's gonna be different because I think it's gonna have the little bow, so it's gonna be cute. And then I do have a beanie planned. I have the yarn for it and everything, but I'm gonna knit the Tallkotte beanie by Stina Berggren. So she, last year, she donated a copy of this pattern to the podcast, and I'm finally getting around to knitting it. So I've had the pattern and like plans for knitting it for a long time, but I just have been waiting for the right yarn to show itself to me. So I think I have some for that. So I don't know, that's not gonna be like right away, but at least when the weather gets cold, I'm gonna need another hat for myself because I only have like 2 and I just don't wear them that much. So I wanna make some that I'm excited about wearing. Okay, so my last knitting work in progress is the Woolen Honey sweater by Andrea Mowry. Looks like this. I'm pretty far along, so I just have to finish the sleeve and then start the next one and I'll be done. I'm using BC Garn BioBalance, and it's a 50-50 wool and cotton blend, or it might be 55-45, something around there. It's nice. I've never knit with a wool cotton blend before, but I really like it. I did have trouble getting gauge with this yarn. I don't know if it's because it might technically be like heavier than a typical fingering weight. So I just decided to knit on the needles that I had that I wanted to use, and choose a size just going by the stitch count. So my gauge was a little bit bigger than it should be that the pattern calls for. And I usually will knit a small or medium in sweaters for most patterns, but for this one I'm knitting the smallest size, which is an extra small, and it is definitely going to fit. So that's good. The math all worked out the way it was supposed to. Although I feel like it's just taking me a really long time. The yoke was super addictive. This was my travel knitting for London, and this looks super complicated, but if you haven't knit this pattern, like, I understand this, like, at first I was like, how is that even possible? I don't understand that, but it's actually really, really simple to do this slip stitch pattern, and it was easy enough to memorize per row that while traveling, just every few rows, I just had to like glance at the pattern and it was easy to memorize, and I could just not have to look at it for a long time after that. So yeah, doesn't seem like it'd be good travel knitting, but it totally was. I finished most of the yoke in London, and I was there for about a week. But since we've gotten back, the body and the sleeves have been so slow going. Like, the yoke was so addicting to knit. I went through it so fast, and then, I don't know, garter stitch in the round on these teeny tiny needles. I guess they're not teeny tiny. What am I using? I'm using a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter, which is smaller than what I usually use for a fingering weight sweater. I think I usually use like a US 4 or 5 for fingering weight sweaters. But anyway, garter stitch is already slower because it's a squishier fabric. Like, each row doesn't take up as much space vertically, so you're already knitting a lot more rows. And then it also goes a little bit slower because I purl slower than I knit. So I just feel like it is just taking much, much longer to get through, and it's like not fun anymore because I don't have this like interesting slip stitch thing going on. It's just rows of knits, or rounds of knits and purls. And yeah, the sleeve, I felt like it took forever, and then the pattern said to knit a certain number of inches past the armhole, and that took me like, it only got me to here, but I think it was supposed to be like past the elbow, so I don't understand like how, I don't know, maybe my yoke ended up being shorter than it's supposed to be, and so the arm ended up higher than it's supposed to be. Anyway, I just have to like knit a lot more than I was expecting to, and it's just taking a really long time. So I'm less excited about this now. I think I'll be really excited to wear it, but I'm not excited to knit it anymore. Just tired of garter stitch. I need something more interesting. It's also rare for me to only have 2 projects I'm working on. I usually have a lot of different things to occupy my brain space, but I only have the turban and this garter stitch business, and so that is just like not enough going on for me. So yeah, so both of my knitting projects have kind of taken a break for now while I've been working on sewing. So let's talk about sewing. I got a sewing machine. This is a Brother machine. It's like the cheapest one I could find. Yeah, I just got the cheap one because it's on American voltage, so I have to plug it into a transformer because I live in Germany, and so yeah, it's not dual voltage. So I just got the cheapest one because I don't have a whole lot of extra cash right now also, and so I just figured it'd be a good beginner machine. And you know, when and if we have to move back to the States, I'll probably just sell it and get a nicer one if I'm more into sewing at that point. Also, I've heard that plugging machines into transformers can mess with the motor when you move back to the States and plug it into a regular outlet. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to like buy a big fancy machine while I'm just starting out, but it's been fine so far. I'll show you the first thing that I made. So I made this dress. This was my first project. Sorry that it's wrinkled. But this is the Stevie dress by Tilly and the Buttons. I was so excited to make this dress that when I went to the fabric store, I bought 2 types of fabric to make the same dress. This was the fabric that I was less excited about, and so I started with this one. The other fabric I got, I don't have it with me right now, but it's like a super, super light chambray as opposed to this like, you know, more medium blue chambray. But yeah, so I made this one first because I figured it'd also kind of cover up any mistakes a little bit better since it's darker. And after I made it, I do really like this dress. It's super, super simple. I'll show you the back of it. This is like the more complicated part of the dress, and it's not even that complicated. There's just a little bit more going on in the back. But after making it and wearing it, I just kind of realized that it kind of looks like a hospital gown, which is fine. It's, I mean, a plain dress can only be so plain before it starts to look like a hospital gown, and this is kind of as plain as you can get. But I went with the button option because I felt like, oh, if you haven't seen it, the other option is to have a tie here, like a fabric tie, and I thought that the fabric tie would make it look even more hospital gown-ish. So I went with the button. What can I say about this? I don't know. It's not, I mean, it fits good. It kind of looks how I was expecting. I wish there was pockets in the sides. I just got this front pocket, but I kind of wish there was some to put my hands in when I wear it. So I might do that on the next one. But then my least favorite thing about this is the neckline. Like when I sit down, it can get kind of choky, and it's like really, like it doesn't stretch because it's just a woven fabric and it's like all stitched up and it doesn't stretch. So I just feel like it gets kind of choky, and I don't like that. So this is a good dress for walking around a lot in, but it's not fun riding in the car in it. There are a lot of mistakes, but I'm not going to show you all of them because I don't know, there's just kind of no point. It's my first project, so there's gonna be mistakes and uneven stitching and yeah, but I would have to say overall pretty good. But I think for my next one, since it is so simple, I'm gonna try to either add pockets or, you know, make the skirt part kind of like a slightly different shape, because this one's kind of, it's like slightly A-line. So I thought maybe the next one would look cute with like less of a flare. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy with it because it's wearable, and I thought it might not be wearable, but it totally is. So my second sewing project is what I'm wearing, and this is the Cleo, also by Tilly and the Buttons. I went with Tilly and the Buttons for my first couple projects because I've just heard they're really, really good for beginners, and they actually explain things step by step a little bit more than typical sewing patterns. So it was good and informative and helpful, but since I started with that, now I'm kind of scared to use regular sewing patterns because now I'm just all worried that they're gonna be super confusing compared to what I'm used to now. Yeah, but I'll show you the Cleo because I'm wearing it. See if I can just scoot the camera back so you can get a better view. So it's just a little dungaree dress, and it doesn't fit perfectly. I guess it's not too bad. But I don't know, like this part I feel like comes in a little more than I was expecting. It doesn't hit quite in the exact spot I was hoping for. Oh, my sweater's sticking out. But yeah, I have a pocket. Just like the other dress, I wish that I had put pockets there. And it does have pockets on the butt, but I don't know, I had a lot of fit issues with this one. When I first sewed it up, it was too tight. Like I could barely get it on, even though I checked all the sizes and everything, and it was supposed to be the size that I needed, but it was just really tight. So I don't know what was going on with that. And so I'm pretty proud of myself because I was able to rip out those seams safely. Like I didn't cut the fabric or anything, so I got all the seams out and I let out the seams a little bit. And so now it fits comfortably, but I don't know. I think this was maybe made for somebody with a longer torso. I'm pretty short. I'm shorter than 5'2". So yeah, like I'm used to things being too long on me, but I've heard that Tilly and the Buttons patterns are good for short people. And I figured, like I went ahead and put the pockets on at the beginning, not thinking about that because I figured at the end I could just adjust these straps to just like wherever it's gonna fit the best. But then for me to have the butt pockets in a place that didn't make my butt look weird and have it in the right spot, then this part would have been like way up here. Like I would have had to pull it all the way up for the butt pockets to be where they need to be. So yeah, it's just like too long overall. And so I just kind of like put it in the middle of where, I don't know, I think I should just take the pockets off, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to sew them back on. I don't know if that's gonna be too hard, but it's not the end of the world. Like this is not, I wasn't expecting this to be perfect, obviously. And it's made with this, it's like real denim, so it's like really thick and sturdy. So I think it'll hold up well. But I think I'm gonna use this more as like a cover up going to ballet and stuff, like over my leotard and stuff like that, instead of for like everyday actual wearing, because yeah, like I said, the fit's not perfect. And I mostly wanted to make this pattern specifically so that I can wear my hand knit sweaters underneath it, which is what I'm doing today. It's my So Faded, which I've worn a million times, so I'm sure you guys remember it. Yeah, but a lot of my hand knit sweaters are cropped, and then it kind of like this ends where a lot of my sweaters end. And so I tried it on. I tried this on with my piece of silver, which is even more cropped than my So Faded. And the piece of silver I made is like really boxy, so it's like much wider and much shorter than a lot of my other things. I tried it on with this, and so the whole sweater was like sticking out of the sides of this dress, and it just looked ridiculous. So I don't know. I think it would work if this opening on the side of the dress was much lower or much higher, but right now, since it ends exactly the place where most of my sweaters end, the sweaters kind of get bunched up and stick out in a weird way. So yeah, I'll just have to figure that out as I go. But other than that, I want to make one of these in corduroy. Like, I really, really want a mustard corduroy version of this. I just think that would be so cute. Yeah, but I haven't been able to find corduroy because we don't have a whole lot of fabric selection where I live, and they only had a couple of corduroys in stock because it's still summer. So I'm hoping that since fall is coming and it's, I don't know, starting to get a little bit cooler, that they'll be stocking more corduroy options very soon. Okay, I have one more sewing thing to show you, and that is this janky little zipper pouch. I just made this with some of the scraps left over from my Cleo. I got this zipper. First of all, Ben had some shorts and the zipper broke on them. And so I was like, oh, this will be fun. I'm gonna learn how to fix a zipper, or just put a new zipper into a pair of shorts. And so we got this zipper, and I got excited and wanted to make this pouch before I got to the shorts. So I'll just buy Ben a new zipper when I'm ready to do that. But when I was fabric shopping for my dresses, I found this fun fabric, which is like the backside of stockinette stitch. And it's so cute. I don't know, I really wish that they'd had the same fabric except with like the front side of stockinette stitch on it, because then I could have like made something with the outside and the inside. But I thought this would be a cute lining for a project bag or something, so I just got a yard of it, and I just experimented just to see if I could do this. I didn't use a pattern, I just used a YouTube video to show me how to do this. I think it did not turn out very good at all. Like, look at this. This is really bad. And then when I zip it up, it's like the zipper like doesn't match up perfectly. It's really bad. But yeah, I think that it doesn't match up well at all because I just didn't have a good setup for cutting like perfectly straight pieces of fabric and everything. But now I do. I got a cutting mat and a rotary cutter and like one of those big rulers so that I can eventually do quilting, because that's what I really want to do, is make a quilt. So now that I have that stuff and I can finally cut perfectly straight lines, I think that these will go better because I want to make some of these. Yeah, but I am, you know, pretty proud of myself that I was able to make like a little pouch with lining, and it's okay. I like screwed something up in this corner. I think I accidentally cut the corner off when I was trimming the seam allowance. So that happened, and so then I was just super lazy, and I mean, I knew it wasn't perfect already, so I just like top stitched the bottom of it just to make sure that nothing would fall out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna use this for. I just wanted to try making it. So that's it. That's all I've got to show you guys. Hopefully next time I'll have this space more set up and it'll look really cute, and then I can give you a little tour if that's something you guys want to see. Yeah, I guess for future sewing, other than making a quilt, I bought a couple more patterns because Tilly and the Buttons was having a pattern sale, and so I took advantage and I ordered the Marigold, which is a jumpsuit and trousers pattern, and then I also got the Cocoa because I really want to learn to sew knits. I want to sew knit fabrics. I want to make t-shirts and like easy things to wear. I know that sewing knits is really different than sewing woven fabrics, but I don't know, we'll see. I think it'll be fine. I'm like not really scared to try things with sewing because I was scared of trying things with knitting for like 10 years and now I realize how ridiculous that was, so I'm just gonna like go for it. And if I waste fabric, then that's better than wasting time and spending 10 years not making the things that I want to make. So that's how I see it. But yeah, I am really excited, especially for this jumpsuit, because I love jumpsuits so much, but being short and curvy, it's very hard to find flattering jumpsuits. And so I'm like, my main motivation, other than making things to wear with my hand knit sweaters, is to make jumpsuits. So I'm really excited to make one of these. I just have to find fabric. So I might go today or tomorrow to try to find fabric for this jumpsuit. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. I'm just gonna keep it simple. So yeah, that's all I've got for today. So I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you want to see more sewing stuff or if you're just here for the knitting. Or even if you have any suggestions as a beginner sewist. I want to know what you guys think are fun projects. And don't say pillowcase because I'm not going to be sewing pillowcases. I want to make clothes. So yeah, anyway, I will see you guys next time, and thanks for dropping in. Bye!